This episode of What's the Recipe podcast is brought to you by Corpse Reviver, which is a sister brand to Hooch Pooch, which we know and love. This is a hydration libation brewed with a tea base, slightly bubbly, packed with a daily dose of electrolytes, and full of refreshing flavors. Corpse Reviver is your new favorite hydration libation. This libation plays a simple role to offer a better-for-you beverage with simple ingredients needed to bring your body back to life. Whether you sit before heading to the gym in between a few boozy beverages or while sneaking into a speakeasy, Corpse Reviver is there to refuel you and redefine classic. So we love Corpse Reviver, and it really is such a great drink to have if you're looking for a non-alcoholic option. We love it in the summer, we love it in the winter, and of course it is a sister brand to Hooch Pooch, which is basically what we live and breathe.
Hydration libation, baby.
So you can use code RECIPE for 20% off on drinkhoochpooch.com. Enjoy.
Yeah, the Corpse Reviver is something they're really excited about, and I'm really excited about it too. It looks great. They did amazing on the artwork. What does libation mean? Do you know?
A libation, I think, is just a drink. It's a beverage. A libation.
Say hydration libation 5 times.
Anyway, we have a really good episode for you guys today. It is my birthday week. Ooh, ooh. I'm turning 26.
It's not just it's not your birthday day. It's your birthday week, right?
Yeah, it's my birthday week.
Got to celebrate the whole week.
And I'm turning 26, and we are going to Keystone actually with a lot of our good friends. We have 2 couples flying in town for this event. It's going to be the event of the season.
Super stoked for it. Yeah, whenever you have a place to stay in the mountains and some skis and a hot tub and some good drink and good company, it's definitely going to be a weekend to remember for sure.
Prepare to be sick of us because we're going to be posting a lot of content. And I just have to say, shout out to my fellow Aquariuses because it is Aquarius season, which is the best season.
How do you feel about turning 26?
I actually feel really good about turning 26. 25, I had a quarter life crisis, and it was much needed though. I feel like I needed to go to the depths to understand where I was at and what needed to change. And so 26 feels really, really good. I don't feel depressed anymore. I don't feel like I don't know what I want anymore. I just feel confident and good. And I think 26 actually sounds right. Lucas and I, for so long, have been being like, yeah, we're 22, but we have a child. Or yeah, we're 24 and we have 2 children. We've always just sounded younger than we feel like we are. So 26 actually sounds like right for us.
Yeah, I agree. Every other age before 26 was like kind of weird for me, or not necessarily like my experience being that age, but just turning that age. But I do remember my 26th birthday just felt right. It was like, yeah, feels right. 26 is a great age.
We're not talking about you. This is my birthday. Actually, I will say though, driving over here, I kind of had a moment where I was like, 26 sounds awesome, but it's also 4 years away from 30, and that feels weird.
I think 30 is sexy. I like 30.
30 is sexy, but I'm not ready for it.
I think, we age like fine wine. I don't mind at this point getting a little bit older, but yeah, Shorty, you getting old. 26. What are we going to do? What's on the agenda for the weekend?
So we are heading to Keystone actually with Anna, who owns Hooch Pooch, and her boyfriend Griffin. And then again, a few of our couple friends, which you guys know and love one of them. And we're going to be giving you guys a lot of content, but we're going to ski on Friday, ski on Saturday, and ski on Sunday, I'm pretty sure, and then come back on Monday. So we're going to ski, we're going to après ski, we're going to drink, we're going to be in the hot tub, we're going to be taking some cool ass photos for the new What's the Recipe hats. We're going to just play games. It's going to be a cabin mountain vibe, and honestly, I haven't had a birthday bash in a really long time. I haven't done anything big for my birthday, especially a trip, in a really long time. I want to say maybe since high school, when I would used to go to the beach condo all the time for my birthdays. So this feels really exciting. We get to have a weekend away from the kids. Shout out to my mom for holding down the fort with the kids. So I'm excited.
Love me some cabin mountain vibes, baby.
And I just have to say, my fellow Aquariuses, some which I have to note, which is Paris Hilton, J. Cole, we share the same birthday.
Yeah, you and J. Cole, January 28th.
And Julia Fox, I just found out, is also an Aquarius.
Is that something you like love Julia Fox?
I don't, but I think she's kind of iconic. She basically rose to fame so fucking fast, and she just like claimed that shit. She just like stepped into that role with confidence, which I love.
Hot take?
You think that's a hot take?
100%.
Is she controversial?
She's just like, I don't know. I think she's kind of famous for like dating Kanye West or, fucking other celebrities.
But she's also in Uncut Gems. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Did you see that TikTok?
I wouldn't say she's like someone to necessarily be proud of sharing a birthday with, but that's just my take.
It was just a fun fact.
Yeah,
it's not that deep.
Either agree or disagree. It's okay. Yeah, it's really not that deep. We can move on now.
Okay. Anyway, like I said, we have a really awesome episode planned. We are going to jump into a Q&A about relationship things, sex, dating later in the second half of this episode. But before we do that, we're going to do a full Culinary School Week 1 recap.
I think before we do that, we should definitely note some of the exciting things that have happened recently. Something I'm super stoked for you experiencing for the first time a couple of days was School of Rock.
Oh,
is that appropriate to dive into?
Yeah, I would love to.
So Jack Black is my personal idol. He's like, to me, the greatest human being on the face of the earth. And that all stemmed from me being just a little boy watching School of Rock and it still being one of my favorite movies of all time. But it's kind of funny throughout our whole relationship, I always sort of do things from School of Rock or like quote the movie. And I think Amanda has always kind of entertained it, but never really knew. She's never seen it, long story short.
I couldn't relate.
And you saw it for the first time?
I did see it for the first time.
What are your thoughts?
I came home from working at a coffee shop and it was just on. Lucas had it on while he was doing laundry because he was about to go to Florida for a conference. So he was about to leave. And I was just glued to the
I saw
TV.
it on Netflix and I freaked out. I was like, holy shit, Netflix has School of Rock. I am totally playing that right now. And then, you just happened to be...
So I don't think I've seen Jack Black in his like full just power. I don't think I've seen him in his full glory. And it was a sight to see. I actually really loved it. Like, I thought it was so well done. I thought the kids were amazing. It was cool to see Miranda Cosgrove in that light, being so young before she even popped off.
Memories all alone in the moonlight.
The other little girl, though, I liked better.
Which one?
The other little white girl. She had the braids.
Like
she was actually a good singer.
The backup singer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Like, they're so young and so little, but they killed that shit. And Jack Black was so good. The teacher also, or the principal.
Yeah.
She's an OG. I thought it was such a good movie. And I can't believe I hadn't seen it before. I don't know why I didn't see it before.
Yeah, that's so... I think a lot of the movies that you watched, your parents sort of introduced you to, and I don't think like they were Jack Black. I don't think they really knew about Jack Black, or Jack Black wasn't necessarily on their radar.
What I want to know is, how did Jack Black even become Jack Black? Was that his first breakout role?
I'm not sure. I don't know. That's a really good question. I should know this.
You should know this.
Yeah, I need to dive into all things Jack Black. But yeah, I just thought we had to mention that. So we're proud of Amanda now for watching that incredible
I feel
movie.
like I'm officially part of a club that I never was a part of. So if you guys are Jack Black fans and School of Rock stans, I'm here with you guys now.
Yes. But yeah, moving on. Culinary School officially started that bitch.
For anybody who maybe doesn't know our story or our background, Lucas grew up with his parents being restaurant owners. His dad's a chef. His mom ran the front of house. And food has always been in his blood. But I don't think he really even considered doing anything related to food until maybe last year. And so this has been such a cool thing for me to see Lucas do, because I know food is such a big passion of his. I mean, he cooks all of our dinners. Cooking is really like his therapy. It's also where I feel like he's going to have a lot of his creative outlet, and he does already. And so he made the decision to start culinary school this January, and we've been kind of hinting at it, but it has actually officially started. So we want to start doing recaps on this podcast, because I think culinary school is a unique experience. And I also feel like there were so many people who slid into my DMs when we mentioned it, even on like our first episode, being like, I am so interested in culinary school. So can you recap? So
yeah, it's been a riot. It's been super fun. Just quickly piggybacking on some of your points there. You kind of explained that pretty well, by the way. You've heard me explain that.
Well, I am a podcast host, and I am married to you.
Yeah, food in the Fowler family is definitely runs in our blood. Something that we were all raised on. Both myself and my siblings, we can all sort of cook. Like we can all get in the kitchen and
and they can sing, which
create
is just
some
not
magic
fucking fair.
create some magic out of nothing. Something we always watched our dad do, and I think my appreciation for food was so kind of subtle and in the background because I was always an athlete. I always thought, being an athlete was going to be something I was going to do my whole life. That was my identity. But food on the side was something that always, made me happy and was a passion that was sort of unlocked in my later years when, football was over. I'm actually an adult now. I have a big boy job and I'm still like, what really makes me happy outside of work and making money? And that is food and the creation of food. So that's when I was sort of really inspired to be like, I really want to dive into this kind of thing. You have one life to live. So culinary school is something I've always been interested in, my later half of life. And it's something that I can finally afford to sort of put myself through this experience. So yeah, started that a couple weeks ago and I'll kind of dive into what I've learned so far. Before
you dive in, I would love for you to walk people through the thought process of you actually doing culinary school. Because I think when you leave college and you get like a big boy or a big girl job and the money is steady and you're in a comfortable position, how do you justify being able to drop a bag on yourself to invest in your passion and where your heart is leading you? How do you even get the courage to do that? I think a lot of people listening could probably relate to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stemmed from knowing that if I never did something like that, I would always regret it. A lot of it stemmed from imposter syndrome too. My whole, growing up, it's like, Lucas always cooked. Oh man, you must be a great chef. Like, no, not really. I can just whip some mediocre stuff together that kind of tastes good, but I didn't know sort of the science behind cooking and professional cooking and, creating sauces and making soups. And that's something I want to do. And I don't necessarily have the time to self-teach myself, if that makes sense, because of the kids and, our full force of family. So I was like, there's really only one way for me to take this serious, and that's investing into something like culinary school. Luckily, there's one very local to Denver that has a night class, Mondays and Tuesdays from 5 to 10 p.m. So I can still have my full-time job and still do what I'm doing today, but just also on the side, sort of fill this cup per se of cooking and learning about food, and that is really enjoyable for me. And at the end of the day, when I look at my life sort of high level, I don't look at myself being an employee for forever. I don't look at myself being an employee for life. I always loved and enjoyed the world of food and hospitality and, walking into a restaurant and knowing the owner personally and the owner being a presence and the whole space of restaurant tourism. And, I just really find a lot of respect in that lifestyle, and, good food makes any person super happy. And I am the happiest when I'm sitting down and I know I'm about to get a fucking great meal. So it's something I would love to dig deeper in my life. And I was like, I know like I said, the justification, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. So let's just jump in right now.
I also feel like this is the first thing that you've really done for yourself. That's been like a big thing that you've done for yourself, even disregarding long-term plans, but just passion, but just hobby, just something that brings you joy. And I think that more people need to prioritize the things that bring them joy, because you do only have one life to live and you will regret it if you don't do it now.
Yeah, I think a lot of it stemmed from too, I've been an athlete my entire life. That was my identity until I was, 19, graduating college. And then at 19, I've done this one thing for forever. I don't know who the hell I am. I don't know myself. I thought I was this person for so long, and now that side of me is completely I don't do that anymore. So it's okay. And then we had our children early, then we got married, and it's well, I need to now get a job, not necessarily following a passion, but following support. I need to support my family.
And skill.
And skill, right? And then, I don't really know what I want to do or how I want to be creative, but I always, the more I detached myself from that, from being an athlete and really trying to sit with like who I am and what I respect and what I want to do, food and the creation of food and hospitality, that always kind of, kept coming back to my mind. So this is sort of my first step in explaining or exploring, who I really am down at the core, just kind of sitting there thinking about what inspired me as a child outside of sports and outside of being an athlete was being in the kitchen, watching my dad do his thing, who taught my dad, my grandmother, watching my grandmother cook. Like every night my family would sit down and we would have family dinner and just all the memories shared over a meal, and how I was so young and appreciated food so much and only appreciated it more as I got older. I'm like, okay, maybe this food thing is a part of my identity that I never really entertained because my identity was being an athlete and sports. But now I'm out of that. It's like, what else is a part of my identity? And that is food and possibly being a WWE superstar one day.
I don't know about that latter part, but great. Let's dive in. I'm ready to learn.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. This culinary school is in a very really sexy industrial sort of commercial building where half of it is a kitchen with a few different levels to the kitchen and layers, a couple different rooms, but definitely one sort of main kitchen hub. And then the other half of it is a space that they can host, events. So they can, this place that we cook and are doing school will host
a date night cooking class.
They also do they also do independent one-off night cooking classes. They're an event space too. Like you can host the space to do what dinner? Bridal parties.
Launch.
What's the dinner before a wedding?
Rehearsal dinner.
Rehearsal dinners. The school even puts on public nights where, it's like part of my finals week that they sell public tickets to, and we kind of cultivate and create a whole menu, so on and so forth. But yeah, it's a really cool space. So the first couple weeks, it's very kind of lecture based, first, introducing ourselves to the class, pretty small, intimate class of
icebreakers.
10 to 12 of us. Yeah. Icebreakers.
What was your icebreaker?
Well, I think our icebreaker was introducing ourselves, where we're from and one of our favorite meals to eat. And I kind of was caught off guard because I love so many things. And I was the second person in line to introduce myself. So I didn't have too much time to really think about it. But I said because it was really cold outside our first night too. And obviously weather plays a big part in what you feel like eating. So at the time I was like, what would just rock my world right now? And I said a bowl of really good ramen, tonkatsu ramen with a big, piece of pork belly and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny when I mentioned that, you could hear the whole class be like, oh yeah, that sounds really good right now.
Okay.
So that was a cool icebreaker, but it's been very lecture based, right? So at first before we go into the kitchen, we're really learning about sort of the history of professional cooking, our executive chef, he's been there for 17 years, really cool dude. And he sort of explained look, you guys have all been cooking to sort of satisfy your taste buds, or you probably all cook for a relatively the same people on a regular basis. If you have kids, if you have a wife, if you have a spouse, or just yourself, what you think tastes good. What I know what you like. I know what the kids like. So that's sort of the scope of when we cook. But he's through culinary school and through what we're going to teach you, you start learning how to taste meals to satisfy a full restaurant, right? Which means when you're cooking and you're tasting something, you're not tasting it saying, ooh, this tastes good to me. You're tasting it saying, is there a good balance of fat, of acid, of all of these different combination of flavors that just blueprint make a good meal, if that makes sense. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
It is. So I want you to maybe explain a few of the top takeaways that you learned in week one.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny. Week one, we sort of, and I have my little notebook out here, just kind of going through
His
my notes.
culinary school. What are those even? Composition book.
Yeah, this is the OG composition book. They're the greatest thing ever. Like they're like 55 cents at Target, and they're still the swaggiest looking books of all time. But it all started with sort of like the history of professional cooking, which I thought was super cool. And we spoke about like specifically three different chefs and one type of cooking that sort of start you back from like medieval time cooking to present day cooking. So back in like the 1300s, you're talking what's the term of history I'm talking about when it's just like medieval times, right? They called this like castle cooking, where there were no such thing as restaurants. There was maybe like a soup thing or a soup kitchen for the normal people living outside of the castle.
I think of like Game of Thrones.
Right, very much so. Game of Thrones. This is where it all started, by a chef. We learned him as Televant.
Televant,
yeah.
My man.
Yeah, here, let me kind of scroll to
my
a
next
couple.
child's name.
Televant. So this sort of style cooking was for like royalty, as far as people who lived in castles, and he was considered like the first professional master chef back in the 1300s, like medieval cooking. And he sort of, and a lot of this shit all stems from like France. A lot of this professional cooking, or like what started as the creation of professional cooking, is all like sort of French based.
And when you say professional cooking, you're thinking like for the masses, where it's more about creativity and flavor versus just getting fed by your grandma.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like first stage outside of like hunting a animal and just cooking it over fire, right? So this chef really started, he was appointed and cooked for royal families, in the castle. So that was pretty cool. And then we started learning, and then like towards the 1700s, this new chef, Carme is what they called him, was the creator. This is like the first person who was sort of hired by royal family, who was really a chef of extravagance and like real royalty. Because medieval times, like everything was shit. So like even the meals were very meat and potatoes, but it was still this organized chaos. But this Carme guy kind of came in and was a French chef that's, chef that cooked for like Marie Antoinette and cooked for like the royal families of France. And this guy created the mother sauces, which we haven't really gone too far deep into the mother sauces, something I can't necessarily explain to you right now. But this was the first, like, rather being an appointed chef for a castle, he was like the first chef for hire sort of deal, where like they called this guy the king of chefs and the chef of kings, essentially. He was like one of the first chefs to bring like swag into cooking, like really cared about garnishes and what the plates looked like, and
art.
Yeah, really art. Like he started as a pastry chef, and he was like the guy that, would start doing like designs on the pastry, and, really brought high class level cooking to the world. It was really, really cool. And then towards like the late 1800s, early 1900s, we learned about this chef, Escoffier. This guy was the first like restaurateur. This guy was the first guy to be like, hey, we are no longer chefs that just get drunk and is just like chaos in the kitchen. He created like the brigade system, which is the system of like hierarchy in a kitchen. Like there's a head chef, there's a sous chef, there's a chef de cuisine. The kitchen's going to be fucking clean. Everything is going to be, we're going to respect the kitchen sort of deal. He came in with a very like military-esque style, and all these chefs that I mentioned are like the founding fathers of professional cooking, which we learned about. He was the first chef to like really take shit seriously and created the hierarchy system, and really like kitchen management, like the founder of kitchen management. And then we learned about something called Nouvelle Cuisine, and I could be butchering all of this shit, but that's like modern day cooking with, smaller menus, way fresher ingredients, like seasonal cooking, farm to table sort of stuff, more like delicate dishes rather than using like heavy sauces. He was the one that said like, let's use, or not, this Novell is actually not a chef, it's a style of cooking, but this is the sort of cooking that like brought in using like lemon juices and, lighter, more delicate, way more presentation on the plate, so on and so forth. So that was sort of our first lecture that I thought was really cool, and that's when I was like, ooh.
Which I feel like you kind of eat that shit up because you love history.
I was eating that shit up. I was definitely eating that shit up. And then like obviously we dove into like what is the brigade system, right? French word for the hierarchy in the back of the kitchen. Like learning about the back of house, learning about executive chef and the hierarchy of chefs, from sous chef to kitchen manager to chef de cuisine to line cooks, all that
What's
kind of jazz.
chef de cuisine?
So chef de cuisine is responsible for like the daily food production, especially during service time. So before, like, a kitchen really opens at like 7, 8 a.m. Some really high level kitchens, like the prep chefs, will show up at 5:30, 6 a.m. And they are just prepping until service time.
Got it.
And then when service time arrives, which means when these kitchens are actually cooking for people, the chef de cuisine is the guy that's, managing all of these plates actually reaching the tables to the people eating them.
Okay.
Where the head chef at that point is more for like the creation of menus. At that point, the executive chef isn't necessarily
They're like overseeing.
Yeah, they're not really like in the kitchen. The one who's actually cooking and his team is the chef de cuisine's team. And then all like the line cooks sort of
and
like.
And the sous chef is the person.
Yeah, so the sous chef is, what did I write down for sous chef?
Nothing.
I don't think I did write down anything for sous chef.
Sous chef. Crickets.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to give you an answer that I don't know. We'll dive into that. I'll get that. Let's table that question.
Next week on What's the Recipe?
Yeah, and then so that was really cool. That was sort of day one, learning about like the history of professional cooking, which I really enjoyed. And then, the second day we got into like a lecture on taste. What are the 5 basic tastes, like sweet, salty, bitter, sour, umami, and what does each taste like entail of? Where I thought it was interesting, like our executive chef during class mentioned like where on the tongue we should be tasting some of these flavors, because our taste buds are located differently on, in the area or, on the location of the tongue, and each taste bud in each area is more receptive to these sort of tastes. So that was kind of interesting too.
When you're eating sweet, you should taste it with the tip of your tongue?
Yeah, he said like, if, him being a chef, he's like, when I taste sweet things, I only use like the tip of my tongue. When I taste salty things, like the center of the tongue is really more the location where you should eat salty things. Bitter is like roof of the mouth. Sour is sides of the tongue. And like that shit is like super intricate, I guess. Like, I don't know. I don't necessarily.
Next time we go get ice cream, Lucas is just gonna be like.
Yeah, I know. I'm just gonna like use the tip of my tongue. I don't know. Like, I think as time goes on, I'll probably respect that more. But that's like kind of hard. You're used to eating one way your whole life, so like, I don't know. That's gonna take time to sort of respect that method of tasting. I don't think it's something that I need to like adopt forever and like only use these. But it's just something we learned about, right?
So dive into the tastes, the different tastes.
Yeah, so obviously, sweet are sweet things, right? Salty are like, salty things. We actually did a kind of a fun lesson, I guess,
tasting.
We did a tasting lesson where they brought out like 5 different ingredients per like taste. So we tried like 5 sweet things, 5 salty things, 5 bitter things, 5 sour things, and 5 umami things. And that was a really fun exercise. We taste things like all over the map of, different sort of realms of each flavor. And we like had to rate essentially how our like taste buds or body reacted to each taste.
Do you remember the salt that was the saltiest?
I think the saltiest thing was there was something called like salt substitute, I think it was, and that just like blew my fucking head off my shoulders. It was incredibly salty. It was kind of terrible, honestly. Like we tried like sea salt and kosher salt and
Soy sauce.
soy sauce. Of course, me personally, I could drink soy sauce. It was delightful.
What was the sweet one that you thought was the sweetest? Do you remember?
Yeah, so there's something called like pomegranate molasses. It was like reduction of pomegranate juice, and that was like super duper sweet.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was delicious.
It sounds good.
Yeah, and then our executive chef was like, if you like cook a steak, or if you cook a piece of chicken, like you mix, and if you mix like this pomegranate reduction or pomegranate molasses with like a vinegar, and you like brush it on the steak or the chicken, it's like, you know, it's
that
a whole
sounds
other
right up my
it's a
alley.
whole other level of stuff. And then we got into like, you know, salts and like oils. You know, we tasted a bunch of like finishing salts that I thought were really cool. Like we tasted like a salt that it was like smoked. We tasted a vanilla salt that blew my fucking mind. And the chef was like, yeah, you take this vanilla salt and you put it over vanilla ice cream. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. That sounds delightful.
We got to try that.
Yeah, so like there's so many different levels of taste and so many fun things that you can do with some of this stuff. And we tasted like a bunch of different like olive oils or like macadamia nut oils and like finishing oils and finishing like vinegars and vinaigrettes. And so we just explored the realms of taste.
And I think it's cool to even know that information as somebody who doesn't want to be a chef, because I think it allows you to be more intentional with how you experience food. I, for one, I'm not the biggest food person. Like every single meal of mine has to be this amazing meal. I can eat cold chicken and cold rice and be fine. But when I go to a restaurant and I'm paying money, I want to have an experience. I don't just want to eat good food that's comfort food. I want to eat beautifully well done food with intentionality, with all of those different flavor palettes, with a cool ambiance. And so I think it's helpful to note, even for a restaurant goer, that here are all the tastes that you can experience, and can you maybe pinpoint them? Can you like taste all of these things in these meals?
Right, exactly. And that's how these restaurants really do it. Like they're not tasting it to be like, I mean, obviously they want everything to taste good, right? Taste buds are taste buds. A good chef like knows what tastes good, but they're really more importantly tasting the balance of these 5 tastes and understanding if each 5 is represented within this one taste, which is really cool. So, you know, that, I mean, we've only had a couple classes. Like it was Martin Luther King Day last week, so we missed one class, and then I was out of town the next class after that. So going back on Monday, I think the next thing we have to do is like get our safe cooking certificate before we can actually go into the kitchen. But it's been really interesting so far. It's definitely, it feels right. You know, when I'm sitting there like learning about all this shit, I'm not a student at all. I actually hated school. I was the kid that like, you know, probably should have taken school way more serious, but I have crazy ADHD and just never really checked my boxes. I was never excited to learn about stuff, you know, the normal stuff, but I'm actually sitting here in this class being like, this feels right. Like I'm actually super interested in this kind of stuff. So, I love it. It's cool.
Are you going to be number 1 student, number 1 in your class?
100%. So that's
you think you don't think you got any competition sitting in those chairs?
I mean, everyone that are there are good people, but they will be destroyed by me. But I'm not there. It's not a competition. I'm not there to compete. I sort of am, but I'm just, the people I've met in the class so far are really cool. And it's like, look, it's not like a seriously invested class. A lot of us have, because they do like, you know, Monday through Friday during the day sort of class, but like everyone in my class, we all have jobs, and this is a really fun thing for us. But I mean, I get my, you know, legitimate like chef certificate at the end of this thing and can kind of do
you better
as I please after that. But yeah,
and you're still gonna be number 1 in the class.
I'm gonna ace that shit.
You're gonna piss excellence. Ricky Bobby it.
Absolutely. And that excellent piss is gonna fucking taste good. It's gonna taste good.
Okay. I want to move into some of the questions that we got if you're done. Is that the full recap?
I think so. Anything else you want to know about it?
How many people are in the class?
There's like 12 of us.
Okay.
Which is pretty intimate. The admission guy, who is a good dude, really like him a lot. He mentioned that the classes are normally like sitting around 20. So we have a really small, like intimate class, which is really cool. So I will keep the audience posted as time goes on.
And if you're listening and you have questions for Lucas about culinary school, please let us know because we want to be able to give you guys all the answers. And I think it's a cool experience. And like you were saying, I think some people feel jaded by school in general because they weren't academic people when it comes to math, history, science, you know, the whole machine of it all. But when it comes to art and trade schools, like they're so different.
Well, yeah, when it comes to actually something that you want to fucking learn about, that's cool.
Right. And
like,
so
something I definitely learned, which was interesting. I'm like, whoa, I'm actually enjoying sitting in this lecture. You know, I've never really felt that, honestly. I've never felt enjoyment from sitting in a lecture in front of a whiteboard, listening to someone speak. So I think that's how I also know that this is right. Like, this is right for me.
Yeah, you're redefining what it means to be a student.
Right. I guess so.
Okay. So we want to get into some of the relationship questions that you guys sent us. You guys sent us a lot. But before we get into the relationship questions, there was one question about culinary school that I feel like we just have to answer. So the question for you, Lucas, is what is your end goal? To open a restaurant/bar/concept?
I feel that. That's a good question.
I feel that. What?
What? I can't feel a question? Can't make me feel some type of way? It felt like it was a good question. I think first and foremost, like, I want to know what I'm doing, right? I think like that's goal number one. Like, I want to go into a kitchen and I want to make a meal, like knowing what I'm doing. I think right now I'm just cooking because like I sort of have this weird basic understanding and knowledge of just like how to make things kind of taste sort of good, but I want to know the science and like the proper way to do a bunch of stuff. And I think imposter syndrome is a big one too for me. Like, I want my cup to be filled knowing that I went to culinary school and you want to have the knowledge. I want to have the knowledge.
Because you have the appreciation and the respect for food and the kitchen
Yes.
already.
Yes.
You want to have the knowledge to be able to back it up, to be like, to feel credible to go into spaces like that.
Yeah. But to answer the question more specifically, do I want to create...
Oh my God, you are so in sales. You literally take 7 million fucking years to answer a goddamn question. So that was a great question. Yeah, let me just tell you, first of all,
let me give you a backstory, front story, and then I'll answer the question. Do I want to create my own sort of concept, brick and mortar? I think that'd be badass for sure. It's something I saw my parents do. It's something that really inspires me. Obviously in a perfect world, would owning like a Michelin star restaurant or a restaurant that like a community really respects and creating a legacy within a community through good food and, good service, that's fucking sick to me. Like, that is awesome. Something I'd love to work towards. But also I think like the private catering space is pretty cool too, where when I was in like high school, my dad and we would go into people's homes and, they would have their, 10 or 12 of their best friends over. They would drink their own alcohol, but my dad and I would come in and my dad would cook literally in their kitchen. We'd cook them like a 4 or 5 course meal. He would come in and explain what they were eating in between each meal, and it was very intimate. And then we'd leave their kitchen and clean up, and leave the place cleaner than we found it, kind of deal. I think that's really awesome. That's probably what I would start doing first. And then, it's all about being able to provide too, being in a restaurant. I've seen restaurants fail. It's just a lot. But right now I just want to get inspired through the process and just learn.
I think that's the biggest thing for you is you don't know exactly, like yeah, it sounds cool to open a bar, open a concept, or open whatever, or do private chefing. Like that all sounds fun, but I don't think you're going to know what you want until you go through culinary school. You kind of take to one subject matter or take to one thing, and then you actually get into the field. I mean, I think it's very hands-on.
Yeah, because I mean, our curriculum is so vast. Like it's like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a faster paced class?
Accelerated.
It's an accelerated class. So we're learning about so many different things that I'm really hoping through this process, like I find 1 or 2 or 3 things that I'm like, whoa, this is really what excites me. And these are like my favorite things that we learned about throughout the class. Let me dive into those more and see what I can do, with that. But, when I'm daydreaming and stuff, like I already have a couple of concepts on the top of my mind that I think would personally be super cool.
Do you want to share with the class?
No, those are mine too. Those are all mine. I got to have people sign an NDA because they're freaking great ideas. But
I think I know a few. I think you've told me a few of them. Okay. Let's move into the relationship questions. And we actually have an update from the last episode that we did.
We have an update? Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Somebody who wrote in and asked a question actually wrote in again saying, here's the update from what you guys, the advice that you gave me. They
took our advice?
So I'll read the first one. So in case you guys didn't hear the episode, it was on today's menu. It was the intergalactic tomato and scorching hot dating advice.
Whoa.
Episode.
Say that one more time.
I'll link it below for you guys. But anyway, I'm going to read you off what this girl said and you'll remember. And she said, this is what she wrote in. He's not over his ex. Told me I deserve a love he can't give right now. Do I leave or be patient? I'm 28 years old.
Yeah, I remember that question.
Okay. So she says, hi, I was the one last time that was 28 and with somebody who said I deserved a love he couldn't give. Thank you guys. I decided to choose myself.
Boom. That's it?
That's it.
Oh, I gotta know more about that.
She just wanted to say, thank you guys. I decided to choose myself.
Yeah, and through choosing herself,
which I'm assuming choosing herself means that she's not gonna be with that guy anymore.
Right, which is a good idea. I think whenever you're in a situation where you choose like yourself, it may really suck at first. Like a lot of it really does suck, but over time you'll really thank yourself and like the reality will come to surface that was the right choice for you. But hell yeah, queen. Do your thing, girl.
I also just think that anybody who says to you, I can't give you a love that you deserve, has a small fucking dick.
Has a small dick?
That's such small dick energy.
That's where you're going to go with that?
That's small dick energy.
Damn, you're going to hit the guy right where it hurts, man. Dick size, bro.
I can't give you a love that you deserve. Get the fuck out of here with this notebook shit.
No, that's in other words, it's me, not you.
Right, exactly. That's small dick energy. So I'm glad that you chose yourself, girl. Okay.
What would big dick energy be then in that situation?
Somebody that says, hey, guess what? I'm not over my ex. I really think you're really cool, but this is not serving. I'm not able to give you what you need. And I'm still not over my ex. I can't be in this relationship.
And like ending it.
Yeah. Being honest, like you can still say I can't give you what you want, but don't be like, now the ball's in your court.
Or like, yeah, don't be like, I can't give you what you want or what you need, but do you still want to come over tonight?
Yes, he wants to have his cake and eat it too.
Right. Do you still want to come over tonight? Maybe watch a movie?
Yeah. Big dick energy is like, I'm not over my ex and this feels wrong to lead you on.
Yeah. So goodbye.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question, this was actually something that I got asked a lot this week, interestingly, was watching porn / masturbating in a relationship. Do you think it's healthy and normal or unhealthy and a single trait?
I think that's two sides right there. I think like watching porn is one thing and masturbating is the other thing.
Agreed.
In my opinion, yes, masturbate all day, every day. Do what you got to do. Like, I think masturbating is healthy for people.
By the way, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, is it even like...
It's biology.
Is it not healthy to not like ejaculate?
No, it is.
It's healthy to continuously ejaculate, right?
Yeah, of course. It's also really great for a woman too to have an orgasm. I mean,
but I don't know. I didn't do my research. So.
It sends you oxytocin in your body, which relaxes you, reduces stress, which makes you happier.
Yeah, and like, whoa, what happens when you're doing long distance, or what happens when you're like, your spouse is fucking asleep and like you want to get off? Like, yeah, masturbate, dude, all day, every day. That's cool.
I also think it's really important for a woman to explore their own body, even men to explore their own bodies, which I think they just do generally younger than women, because how are you going to know what you like in the bed with a partner if you don't know what you like and what feels good on your body? And for some women, I think it feels more comfortable to explore that on their own versus getting into a sexual situation and being insecure or uncomfortable because you're not sure what you like, so you can't voice it.
Yeah, you got to touch yourself. You got to be
Point blank.
before you're relying on someone else to give you an orgasm, or before you rely on someone else making you feel good. You got to know what makes you feel good. Before that even happens, which means you got to like explore your own body, bro. Or I was gonna say I was gonna say what rhymes with bro, but I don't think that's appropriate. Yeah, I mean, you got to really, you are the one that needs to know what you like and what feels good. You cannot rely on someone else, so you need to be able to like.
So masturbating, good.
Yeah, masturbating is good, and also for those guys or for those girls that are like, guys don't know how to give like an orgasm or whatever. I got really good advice back in the day from my dad. The best way to give a woman an orgasm is to ask them like what they like, and let them teach you how they touch themselves, or let them teach you like the thing, because not every woman likes the same thing other women like. So if you're a dude, I hope that you're hooking up with a girl who does masturbate, because she's gonna know what sets her off, and the fastest avenue to set that girl off that knows herself and that has explored her body is asking like, what you like, baby? You know what I'm saying? Well, how you touch yourself at night? Let me do that same thing, and you'll be just fine. Take it to the grave.
Just don't
And do it in that voice too. Do it in that voice. Look at me like, what you like, baby?
Okay, you done? Don't guess, because also too, if you're gonna say that to a woman or a man, if you're like, what do you like? That actually shows confidence, and it shows that you are interested in their pleasure and them having a good time, which is sexy.
And you could find something new about them. They're like, you're asking me what I like. Okay, they open their closet and you just like.
Okay, let's move on. We can talk about this topic forever.
Can you put on this Pikachu mask for me? Actually, you're the first guy that has actually asked me that. Can you put on this Pikachu mask and wear these fins? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Watching porn. I'll share what I think about this. I think I never really had an opinion one way or the other. I was kind of the camp of men watch porn, therefore I can't control it, therefore I'm not going to try to. And so for me, it was more of a headache to be like, did you watch porn today? And like,
that's got to be exhausting. Honestly.
I don't have the energy for that. I'm too busy. So for me, it was sort of like, that's none of my business. But at the same time, I think it really depends. If your partner watching porn is something that really bothers you, you need to speak up about that, because otherwise you're going to be behaving in a way where that thing that's bothering you is leading your actions, and you're going to be irritable and you're going to be resentful. So you need to speak your mind, but I think you should come from a place of like, hey, I am not trying to tell you what to do at all. You are entitled to doing whatever you want. I just need to let you know that this is on my heart and this makes me feel X, Y, and Z. And so I would love to know if there's a way we can give you satisfaction with your needs of needing to watch something when I'm not with you, but it not being porn and other women. So maybe we can make our own movies, or maybe we can have our own photos or whatever.
Yeah, that's hot for sure.
But I think there needs to come from a place of, how can I satisfy your need to watch porn without you watching porn?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting subject, because obviously I think it's very personal to each person. Like, some people really could care less that their man is watching porn. Some people watch porn with their man, and that's like something that they do together to like spice things up per se. I just really think if you have an issue with your spouse watching porn, like that's a conversation that needs to be had. If you know your spouse watches porn, like, learn more about what they like ask them what categories they're on and stuff, and like ask them like, is there any way that I can sort of fill that cup for you? And yeah, that'll be an interesting conversation for sure.
Well, I want to just mention too, because I think the questions that I got were specifically like men in the relationship watching porn. And obviously there's different dynamics, but the men in the relationship were the ones that were watching porn. And I think that I just want to point out that was a very big thing as a part of men in puberty and manhood is like, are you watching porn?
It's also a psychological, like it's an addiction. Porn is not just an object that you can turn on and turn off. I think a lot of women need to also educate themselves on that. Like porn is as addictive as cigarettes. It's as addictive as hitting a vape pen. It's as addictive as anything someone can get addictive to. Like the amount of dopamine that it expresses.
Especially when you're adding like ejaculation to that.
Right. When you're like, that is not hard to stop doing at all.
It also becomes a habit.
It becomes a habit. You know, some men, I know a lot of men who actually like aren't proud of the porn that they watch or how much porn they're watching, but they can't stop themselves. It's like a legitimate addiction sometimes. And, you know, maybe having that conversation with your spouse, like, is this something that's really filling your cup? Or is this something that like you just like cannot stop doing? Do you need help? You know, I don't know. I think there's a lot of watching porn is just not watching porn. A lot of it stems from early, you know, like men going through this, you know, like you said, puberty process, like the internet, like that was like,
it was like a rite of passage almost.
It was like something huge for us to explore, like women. And after doing it for a long fucking time, it's really hard to stop.
Do you think a lot of boys learn how to have sex from porn?
No, they learn how to have sex from having sex.
Okay, but do you think that they have a misconstrued idea of what sex is because of porn?
Yeah, I think they definitely do. I think that's a whole nother conversation. Not only like how to have sex, but the women that they're having sex with. You know, I think that stems a lot from like being embarrassed of the size of like your penis per se, because porn is like all big dicks. It's all kind of sexy chicks. Everyone's super hot. And it's always like an incredible sexual experience for both sides of the party. But that is like
not what it's like.
Unless you have a lot of practice and you do have a big cock and you're all set to go. You know, you got a fucking hammer penis down there and then you're good. But that's not always the case. I mean, there's all these different kinds of flavors.
But I want to know, because can you talk maybe a little bit, and you don't have to go in depth, but like your experience with porn and like, because I think you made a decision this year, but I think
is that what you're getting at? Do you want me to?
Well, I think it's helpful because the reason I say that is because I never nagged you to stop watching porn. I think that's helpful for people to hear, because I think when you push your partner, like, when are you gonna stop watching porn? When are you gonna stop? When are you gonna stop?
Yeah, that's really
annoying. They're not
annoying.
gonna do it.
Yeah, I think with porn comes like external desire as well when you're not watching porn. I think in today's day and age, especially with social media and with like algorithms, like, you know, for a male, you're on your explore page and you click on like, oh, there's a hot chick with a bikini on, like, let me get a closer look at that. And once you tap that once, like your entire explore page are just like the most attractive women you've ever fucking seen. And then it's like a whole situation, and on top of that you're watching porn, and it's like, wait, but like I'm married, you know, I have given myself to one human being, but why am I having, you know, external sexual desires? Not something I'm going to act on, but like I'm also a male at the end of the day, you know, on top of watching porn and on top of getting fed like incredibly attractive women. Like,
it's a false reality.
It's a false reality. And where does this go? It's super toxic. So on your point of, hey, Lucas, tell people what's going on in your life. One of my New Year's resolutions is for me to stop watching porn. And that's something that it's an addiction, obviously, for a lot of people. I'm not saying I was like addicted to porn, watching it fucking 3 times a day. And like, you know, I can only personally, you know, ejaculate once a day. That's me. I don't know about other people. But it definitely became a ritual for me because, you know, it's a great way to relieve anxiety. You know, work is stressful, this and that. But at the end of the day, it's also toxic on how I look at women as well. So I think for me, it was just something that I want to see if I can do it. And, you know, does that explain?
Yeah, and I thank you for sharing that, because I just wanted to have you share that side of it, because to wrap this question up in a bow, I think if it's bothering you, you need to have a conversation, but don't come from the place of I'm attacking you and I need you to stop this thing. And the second thing I wanted to mention on that context was, I feel like if you do have that conversation from a place of, hey, this is how I'm feeling, I'm not telling you what to do, your partner will naturally stop on their own. And I think maybe even if you just be more hands off and don't really have an opinion on it, and you know, things will kind of come to the surface in your sex life or whatever, it'll happen naturally. I really do believe, and if there's anything I've learned with marriage and like self-growth and all the things and growing together, you got to let your partner come to their own growth on their own terms.
Yeah, but if you're hell bent on it and it's something that really affects you and like you trust your partner and love your partner, do something new. Be like, hey, rather than going this website, how about, you know, we make something fun and you go to your photo albums instead. Like, that's a possibility.
Right.
Don't call me crazy for that.
Okay, moving on. How do you initiate sexy time?
You give the look. No.
Lucas's look is I'll be literally right after I get the kids down, he'll be like standing in the hallway. What's good, baby? I'm like, I'm hungry. I want to sit on my fucking ass for a second. I want to take a breath. I want to maybe take a shower.
I don't know what are times for you that like you think I'm initiating quote unquote sexy time appropriately versus inappropriately? Like what's more
when you
comfortable
give me my
for
love
you?
language. That's what it is. Because for me, I need to have, like when you came home from your work conference, we sat in bed for 2 hours and talked. Which, by the way, the whole time Lucas, like, you could tell he wanted to have sex.
No, not at all.
Not that you weren't listening, but I'm saying, like, I knew that we went to the bed because you wanted to have sex, you know? Like, I knew you wanted to have sex.
I mean, I did, but like that wasn't like.
But I know it. No, I'm not
It's
saying,
definitely gotten way more aggressive in the past.
No, I'm not saying you were like dying to initiate it. I'm just saying, like, you came home from a long work trip, you wanted to have sex. Like, I'm not saying you needed to have it right then and there. I'm just saying I knew that, but that's, by the way, your love language. So of course you wanted to. My love language is quality time and actually having a conversation where we're looking each other in the eyes. There's no distraction. And so he literally sat there and listened to me, and we were talking, we were back and forth. That is sexy to me. That's how I want to initiate. Because then when my cup is filled of like, okay, I needed to have quality time and good conversation and be heard and seen, then you initiate it. That's great.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. When you're like in a long relationship or you're married or whatever, I guess like initiating sex, it's like I just lost the word. It's like a tactic. It's like a...
strategy?
It's a strategy, yes. I guess there sort of has to be a strategy to it. I mean, obviously, if you're single, you know, and if you don't necessarily know this person, the best way to initiate sex, in my opinion, if I was giving advice to men and a man, like women love to feel beautiful and feel wanted. So like being direct, I think, is the sexiest thing a man can do.
But I think we're talking about in relationships.
Yeah, but in relationships, I think there really is there has to be sort of a strategy to it. Like, you know your person, you sort of like can anticipate when they would say yes or when they would say no. If you do know what fills up their cup and their love language, like start there with making sure their cup is full. And then maybe through that process, they'll sort of like give you that sign to like that they're open to it. Or if you don't want to play the long game, just communicate, look at your partner and be like, I'm trying to get fucked right now.
I think sometimes it has to be as direct as that. And I think sometimes like, yeah, you gotta you do. But other times I think it's helpful to initiate, hey, I don't want to initiate sex that bluntly and that like off guard. Instead, I want to say, hey, like, I want to connect with you tonight. I feel like we should connect. Like, let's chat. How have you been? Like, I don't know. I think for women too, women need to be touched to be turned on. And they need to be like, foreplay is huge. They need to get into the mood. They need to shift into the mood versus, especially for moms, or people who just work long hours. Instead, for men, you can go right into having sex because it does relieve your stress like that. For women, we need to be like coaxed into it sometimes.
Was that a man or a woman who asked?
Woman.
A woman asked that?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you have some dude that like is not like the rest of us, we're very simple animals. If you want to have sex, just like grab our dicks or something, or like put on something, small. And
I'll give you a tangible tip for initiating sexy time. Go to bed together. That's a tangible tip. Don't sit on the couch and watch Netflix, and then if one person's going to bed, be like, okay, see you in the morning, good night, I'm staying on the couch. Go to bed with them. That's a tangible tip.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Long distance sucks. So annoying. Everyone gets to be with their man, and we have to be separate. Any advice?
You can go first if you have anything.
I feel like for long distance to be worth it, there has to be an end goal and there has to be a light at the end of the tunnel. And if there's not, maybe you need to have a conversation about, is this still serving us? And is this worth it? And if it is, then there maybe needs to be a situation that comes into play where it's, okay, every 6 weeks we're gonna go visit each other, or every 2 months we're gonna go visit each other. There needs to be something on the books, because again, I think you need to have that light at the end of the tunnel of, this is why we're doing this, or it's like, for what?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I think, if you're really gonna commit to the long distance thing, like, is there an end goal? Are you doing this long distance thing right now because you guys are in two separate places for a certain amount of time and then will for a fact like reconvene? Or are you doing long, like I think, the light of the tunnel, or is there a goal here? If there isn't a goal here and you guys like don't have any plans or aspirations to eventually move in together, or if like you're still in school in separate areas, that's when you really should question, is this worth it for us? Especially during, if you're in a specific time in your life where, it would be better to not have to worry about like that person who could be on the other side of the country, so on and so forth. But, if there is an end goal, just like really make an effort to visit each other more, make an effort to like spice things up over the phone or fill that sort of cup. I think that would be my advice there. But yeah, it does suck. Long distance really does suck. But in our experience, and I think a lot of other people that we sort of know who have done long distance, I think it always benefits when you are finally together. But yeah.
I would actually invite you to reframe that from long distance sucks to long distance doesn't suck, because I think if you are constantly thinking long distance sucks, then why are you waking up every single day being like, this sucks, my life sucks? That's just not a mindset that's conducive to growth or success, in my opinion. And so what I would challenge you to do is, this long distance is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to get to know myself while also being in a relationship, which not many people get to do. There's a lot more relationships out there where people don't get the opportunity to explore themselves outside of their relationship. So this is a really good opportunity for you to discover who you are, really be selfish and prioritize your needs, prioritize what you want to do, hang out with your friends, hang out with your family.
Yeah.
I think the more that you look on the bright side of things, the better of an experience it's going to be for you. And the last thing I want to add in terms of a tip on how to even navigate it is, the biggest tip I can give for people who are navigating a long distance relationship is, don't text each other all fucking day. If you are in a long distance relationship and you're texting all day, you're never having quality intentional time together. And then it also feels like, why am I doing this?
Right.
I don't feel connected to this person. Instead of texting all day, maybe call each other in the morning or send each other a text in the morning. And then at night, schedule a FaceTime for an hour where you can actually sit down and say, how was your day? Talk to me. What's new? Or if you guys have busy schedules, schedule literally like you're scheduling a date night, schedule out a FaceTime night where you guys are going to FaceTime for 2, 3, 4 hours, whatever it is. The biggest thing with long distance is carving out intentional time. Yeah.
And just before we move on, my last thing too, really sit with why you think it sucks. Like, sit with I think long distance sucks because, like, why does it suck for me? Does it suck for you because, like, you're jealous of your friends that get to, like, explore other people? Does it suck because you're with someone who's incredibly jealous, so, like, they bitch at you for wanting to go out and hang out with your friends and go to the bars? Like, really digest and analyze why you think long distance sucks so much, and then make a decision based off that.
Agreed. Okay. How to not let overthinking interfere with your relationship. Fear, and she put fear-based in quotation or in parentheses. So how do you not let your fear-based overthinking interfere with your relationship?
I think if you're incredibly fearful in your relationship, that stems, I hate to say it, but that could stem from some insecurities that you need to digest and sit with. Like, fear-based, what are you afraid of? Like, I think I wish that question was a little bit more specific, like fear of that person like being with someone else, or fear of, does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. And I think I've actually worked with a few clients back when I was doing mindset and wellness coaching, specifically with like relationship things and overthinking and fear. And I think the number one thing that I would always tell them is you have to communicate your fears with your partner.
Right.
If you're not getting them out, they're going to live in your head. And that's where overthinking happens is literally I visualize overthinking like all of these thoughts bumping into your skull because they have nowhere to fucking go. And so of course you're just going to be thinking about it because they're there. Versus if you speak them, they're out into the ether and they're not in your head anymore. You won't overthink it. Also, if you need a little reassurance from your partner because you're traumatized from a past relationship, fucking ask for it. Ask for your need. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. There's a way to go about it. There's a way to be needy and constantly be asking for reassurance. There's a way to also be like, hey, I'm feeling this way. This is new. Can you give me a little reassurance? Cool, got it. He's given it to you or she's given it to you. Now you don't need to ask for it again. And if it continues to come up, then you know it's a me thing, because they've given me the reassurance. And so I think for that is you have to communicate it, and you can't feel bad for asking for your needs. The other thing there is, again, you have to understand that this is a fear and you're projecting it. So it's not actually about the other person and the thought of them doing something. It's a you thing. And so from there, you need to explore that and really understand how you can overcome your fear on your own, because it's not the other person. And they're probably not going to do these things. It's just your past relationships that have made you feel that way. So what do you need to feel better?
Yeah, I think especially if it stems from past relationships and past relationship trauma, you know, you're fearful of something, and it's kind of like sales. Like you're kind of trying to sell to your current partner, like what you need in your cup to be filled, and like stories sell. Like if you had past traumatic experience with a relationship, like you have to be vulnerable and tell that story to the person you're with today. So they have more of an understanding behind that fear, which then they can like create a better environment for you. But this is a major conversation around communication, around like sitting at the table or having that communication with your partner. Like, hey, I have a lot of fear around our relationship. This is what I'm feeling. And then let your partner take it from there, essentially.
Before we move on, I want to also add there, because this is something that I think could help you in reframing your fear, is fear is past tense. Fear is the result of something that happened in the past. So if you're allowing yourself to go into this new relationship with fear, you're living in the past. You don't want to go into a new relationship being in the past. So I think that sometimes can help people being like, oh shit, like I am kind of living in the past and this is a separate relationship. Yes, I am maybe scarred from this, but this is new. This is different. This is not that.
Right.
I think separating the two can be helpful.
Yeah. And just my other point on telling that story, like if you're in a relationship and like you're all over your guy or your girl about, you know, trust, like I don't trust you, like I don't want you to talk to other people here. And like that's all you are. And you've never said, hey, like I don't trust right now, or I'm really fearful because I was in a relationship and I really love this person and they cheated on me. Like that's a lot easier for someone to digest and be like, oh, that is why they could be so jealous, or that is why, you know, I feel like I'm on such a short leash because this person that I really like had a past relationship and was like cheated on. Then after having that conversation, you two can work together on how to sort of get over that past and give that person an opportunity to sort of convince you that this is a new relationship and respect your past trauma, which in retrospect could really help you put that behind you altogether.
On Christmas, my dad always gives us cash for a present, and he always says cash is king. I feel like communication is king.
Right.
Communication is king. That's all you need to know. If there's anything you learn from us, communication is king. Okay, moving on. Last question, which I think is actually a funny question that I wanted to flag, because maybe I can teach the girlies a few things, or maybe the guys. How can I tell my girlfriend to give a better blowjob?
That's classic. First off, my brother, I feel for you. That sucks. I don't feel for you because I don't experience that.
I thought you were actually saying like your brother, Matthew.
No, no, my brethren out there. Nothing worse than being with someone you really like, or just nothing worse in general than getting a bad blowjob.
I can imagine. That's probably brutal.
That's just a terrible situation, especially that being your girlfriend. Like, man, that's a tricky one. That also, I mean, the answer to that is communication as well. Like, right. I don't know. I think you, Amanda, you were never bad at giving a blowjob, but there were definitely moments in our relationship that like, it seemed like you almost did your homework and like brought new techniques to the game. Like, I don't know if you were learning that from someone else on the side or like, what's that? How'd you start doing that? Like, I don't know.
Maybe I was.
I mean, maybe you were.
But honestly, there wasn't like a course I took or like a thing that jumps out to me.
Didn't you like listen to a podcast or something?
I mean, I've listened to many podcasts. I remember the Skinny Confidential had an episode with like how to give a better blowjob.
I think that
Call Her
kind of
Daddy had one.
I think that kind of changed the game a little bit.
I feel like what I learned, because before I think I was just using like my mouth primarily, but I think what I learned is like get involved.
Yeah, I remember as soon as you started bringing your hands into play, I was like, where did you learn this? Like, what's going on here?
I think that's also just a natural evolution. I was getting kind of fucking tired of using my mouth. I think it really was that more than anything. Like, I was just getting tired. My jaw was hurting. So I just started incorporating my hand. And I think for me, like, less is more in every situation. I don't think that's true for a blowjob. I think the more that you can use your mouth, you can open your mouth, you can use your tongue, you can use your hand, like that. I mean, again,
you're getting me excited over here.
Ask your partner what you like. But for you specifically, Lucas, like, I know you like a lot. Like, I don't know, for you, what do you, because you always, there are moments where you're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, why the fuck does it matter to you? Just sit back and enjoy it. Because like, what?
That's me.
Do you want to give a blowjob?
That's me
like,
more so letting you know that what you're doing right now, I like. So like, keep that in the bag of tricks.
Yeah.
But to that question, there's only one way, my friend. There's only one way to getting a resolution out here. And that is sitting your woman down and being like, hey, I think we need to work on your blowjob skills. You know?
And that's totally fine because you're helping her evolution. Whether you are the one, you guys are going to have better sex for it. Or if you're not the one, you're going to help her for the next.
Start with, it's like talking to a company and asking them for a raise. You start the conversation with being like, hey, I love this company. I want to invest my life into this company. I love this company. I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to work for you guys and I want to do a good job for you. That stems, that could be like, hey, babe, I really love you a lot. I don't see myself with anybody else other than you. I really love you. I want to invest, myself into this relationship, but I need a raise, and how are we going to get there? But you need to start giving a little bit better blowjobs, and how are we going to get there? You know what I mean? Like filling her, like, because I think this is metaphorical, but I think if you tell a girl like that their blowjob isn't good, it's
a personal attack.
They immediately are like,
Shut
oh my
down.
God, is he going to leave me? Like,
or it's just embarrassing. Nobody wants to be
no
bad at
one wants
blowjobs.
to hear that. But I think if you reassure her first and be like, yo, you're my chick. I just want to let you know, like, you are my girl.
Also,
don't worry about me going anywhere, but, I
think it's not even I'm going somewhere else. It's more like, I think you're sexy and I love having sex with you and I love when you touch me and when you're all over me, but the blowjob needs work.
But the blowjob needs work.
Like, I think they need to know that they are sexually good in other areas, because if you just come at it like, I'm not going anywhere, but your blowjob fucking sucks, that's like, ugh, I don't want to.
I feel that. And then maybe like tell a story and be like, hey, my buddy.
Tell a fucking story about what? The best blowjob you ever had?
No, not the best blowjob. Or be like, hey, my buddy had, I confided in one of my friends, and he told me that his girlfriend or his girl was sort of like, it was, he went through a similar situation.
Or you just practice on all of his friends.
No.
And then have them have a dinner party and tell them tell them to bring out their notepad and what their notes were.
No, don't. That's terrible. That is not a good way to do it. You could be like, hey, my buddy's girlfriend was going through this, he had the same thing and she used this podcast, or she looked into like this influencer.
I'm sorry. No.
So how do you then?
The moment you take that personal moment out of the bedroom to his friends, I don't trust you anymore.
So you then let her just take that information?
If I was giving a bad blowjob and you went and told your friends and said, can you give us advice? I'd be mortified, because I don't want people knowing that I also give a bad blowjob. It's a you and me thing, baby. Like, that needs to be something that you guys work on together.
I respect that. Okay.
And so maybe you listen to some episodes of, or as the woman, you go to your girlfriends. You don't go to the guys. This is not a conversation for the guys. It's for the girlies.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I like that.
Honestly, when in terms of how do you tell your girlfriend to have a better blowjob, or even just like how to tell your guy to give a better fucking orgasm, or eat you out better, you know, give you better head. Like, you got to just, like you said, lead with, I love you. You are so sexy to me. You're so attractive. But I feel like this could be better, you know? And maybe we can both explore it. Maybe we can listen to some podcasts, or we can watch something, or let's just get some tips. Let's experiment.
Right.
Maybe have a complete session where you're like, okay, now do this. No, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Okay, now do this.
That's fun.
I do like that.
That's fun.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe like put a little, you know, what's it called? Like a little tie on, like a little teacher outfit.
And then she's like convinced that she gives great blowjobs, and she's like, I'm gonna go try this on other people. And then you just fucked yourself.
Okay. Well, oh my God, our timer is literally going off. Okay, that's perfect timing because we are wrapping up this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I thought this was fun. I love giving you guys advice, and I love just serving what you guys want to hear, because again, like this show would be nothing without an audience. So thank you guys for writing in. Also, stay tuned because we are going to be doing another giveaway with these new What's the Recipe hats. So stay tuned for that. That'll be on our Instagram soon. And yeah, I think...
Yeah, that was fun. Stay tuned for the culinary school updates.
Yes.
Going to start getting in the kitchen pretty soon. Maybe we can throw in some fun video content on the page. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening, everyone. And
not yet, because you can find us on Instagram at What's the Recipe Pod, or on TikTok, What's the Recipe Pod as well.
And this podcast is officially 86th.
Bye.
No, 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 no.